The wife of late Senator John McCain describes our current political discourse as awful. Cindy McCain still is a fervent political observer and says she's hopeful about the future of the Republican Party. We spoke to Mrs. McCain yesterday in Washington for an interview only on CBS This Morning. She addressed her husband's legacy and whether his children will follow in his path. What's the quintessential John McCain that you would want people to keep in their head?
I would want people to remember his honor, his courage, obviously, his dignity, and his ability to use humor in all of this. Humor is a great leveler. And boy, he was the best at that, I thought. He lived every day to its fullest. He enjoyed it. He enjoyed the fight. He taught me that. I mean, he taught me how to, not how to live a life, but to respect a life and enjoy it. And enjoy what you're doing. If you don't enjoy it, then what's the purpose?
He often talked about falling in love with his country when he was deprived of its company. And now that you've been deprived of his company, is there an energy? Do you hear him in your head saying, giving you guidance for how to deal with this period?
Well, I catch myself asking. In everything I do, I think, gosh, what would John do? You know, what would he think? Or what would he tell me to do?
Was there a particular instance where you thought this is exactly what he would say?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Oh, yeah. I find, especially in this political climate now, I find myself saying things I know that he would have not only said or thought about, which is kind of fun.
What do you think he would say about kind of where things are now?
I think he'd say a lot of things. I think he would be terribly frustrated. You know, he was the one that was the kind of the conscience of the Senate, and we've lost his voice. And consequently, I saw an elective process this year unlike anything I've ever seen, and I think many people would say that. It was abominable. He would have, I know, quite frankly, would have said, enough. This is not only wrong, but it's bad for the country.
You talk about the respect and dignity which existed after extraordinary fights. He had some tough fights with George Bush, with Barack Obama.
John always said, a fight not joined is a fight not enjoyed. I think many of our leaders fail to remember nowadays that disagreement is part of the process, disagreement is, but not distrust. Listen, we're all Americans. We're all, here for the same reason. And trust is part of this. Trust in knowing that people are there for the right reasons. And they are. I believe in the process, and I know John did.
You've spoken out at various times in politics, not often, but occasionally.
Yes, I've gotten myself in trouble before.
But enjoying the fight the way
exactly.
the senator would have. How does that role change for you now?
Well, I am not an elected official, but I do have the right to my own opinion. One thing John said to me is, you stay high. You stay high on these things. And I agree. I agree.
After the senator's death, a lot of people thought, well, Cindy McCain, she should take the seat. Did you ever talk about that with the senator?
No.
Did anybody ever approach you, and did you ever think about it seriously?
Oh, I've been approached from a bunch of different directions. Yes, I have. My job right now is to make sure my family's okay and make sure that we're moving on in the right direction.
So, if you're not going to run for office, there's Megan, there's Jack. You've got a long list. And do any of them have political aspirations?
I think so. I think we'll see one, possibly two, do it. There are two I know that won't, but there's two that I think will.
You want to fill that ballot out for us? Tell us who it is. Who's thinking?
Not yet. I won't. But I think they've all grown up in politics. It's hard not to. You either catch the bug or you don't.
You have watched a lot of politics, and
I've had a front row seat to history. It's been an amazing ride.
Yeah, and you've seen some pretty tough politics.
The level of discourse is really awful. And so when I see the differences and the hatred that's going on right now, it's hard.
Do you feel like you still have a home in the Republican Party?
Yes. I and John have said the same thing. We will always be Republicans. I think the party itself will, it's, as you know, politics is very cyclical. And we both believed and talked about it, actually, that we believe the pendulum has swung and it will swing back. I think we'll come back. I think we'll come back to the kind of party that we've always been, and that's a party of of Abraham Lincoln. I mean, that's who we are. He asked that every year on his birthday, August 29th, that we have a big party.
Recently, Mrs. McCain returned home to their family ranch in Arizona for the first time.
And that was hard. I'll admit it. It was hard because it was so much, everything there, so much him that I had to really kind of take a breath and work through it a bit. I did what he had said to do, and it was very helpful, actually. He had a certain drink that he liked. I know you know this. It was vodka on ice with an onion in it. And so he called it the bewitching hour and the most beautiful time of the day. So that time of the day, the first day, I made one of those drinks. I don't drink that, but I made one of those drinks and put it out, took a picture of it, with the lawn behind him, and put it up on Instagram and said, here's to you, Johnny. Here we are.
That's beautiful, John.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And the senator had a favorite playlist that they played while he was sick, and she says she's been listening to that again too. So the whole family is learning to move on.
You know what we've lost in this culture of outrage is something that she talked about, that disagreement is part of the process, but not distrust. It's okay to disagree forcefully with people. That's part of the process.
He enjoyed it.
Yes.
Right. The whole process was set up for that.
Absolutely. And I have to say, when was the last time you listened to someone who's been involved in politics that you could say, I could keep listening to them for a long time?
Yeah.
I could have heard another 10 minutes from her. She's so reasoned. She's had such a front row seat to history. I mean, I want to hear more from Cindy McCain.
Me too. So far this week, it's been Michelle Obama and Cindy McCain class acts that you want to keep thinking, keep talking,
Yes.
keep talking.
From
women.
different parties,
Yes.
and we will need more of them.
Well, if you want to hear more from Cindy McCain on today's CBS This Morning podcast, that's an alley-oop from Ms. O'Donnell. You can hear our full interview with Cindy McCain. Our podcasts are available on Apple's podcast app or wherever you like to download your podcasts.
Yet another reason to listen to our podcast.
There you go.